the end of the world as we know it, and the only people who can stop it are a man, a woman, a dog, and a cat. It's the final book in the Abhorsen Trilogy, named Abhorsen by Garth Nix. I talked about how it was a little bit hard to really judge Lirael, which is the second book in the trilogy, because it was really only half of a story. And really, Abhorsen not only finishes up the second half of what began in Lirael, but really does a nice job of wrapping up the trilogy and making it feel like a complete whole, which I was really excited about because I really liked Sabriel. And it felt like a little bit with the second book, because we moved on to the next generation. I was a little worried that Sabriel and Touchstone, who are the main characters in that book, kind of got left a little behind. But thankfully, I will say in the third book, I really felt like Nix did a great job of capping the series, of bringing it to a really interesting conclusion, even though there is a sort of an ending, an epilogue that leads into future books, because there were more books made after this Abhorsen trilogy in the Old Kingdom series. I talked before how Lirael and Samael were the main characters in Lirael and Abhorsen, how much I like them more as characters. I do think those two characters, Sabriel and Touchstone, they were a little bit more on the generic side when it comes to fantasy characters. So I feel like Lirael and Sam had a little more invested into them by Nix, and the fact that he had two books to work with. But we still get a lot of the stuff that worked really well. I mean, we get Sabriel and Touchstone, we get Mogget, who was my favorite character in the first book, and I'm sure was lots of people's favorite character. He's pretty much written to be your favorite character. And then not only do we have a cat who's actually this ancient magical being, now we have the disreputable dog, who is also another ancient magical being of some sort. Nix also does a lot more with the contrast between Celestier, which is the sort of modern-ish world, and the Old Kingdom, and how they basically butt up against each other. They are two separate worlds that have been basically smushed together, and in one, magic doesn't work, and the other it does, and a little bit more of the politics come into play here. I did once again listen to the audiobook that's read by Tim Curry. It is unfortunately the last audiobook in the series that he reads, and it's really going to be a shame. I'm sure the other audio narrators are fantastic, but Curry brings so much character to these characters and so much just performance to it. It's really, I'm so glad I listened to it this way. Sometimes fantasy books on audiobook can be a little difficult or not work well because we're dealing with a lot of, weird names or whatever. But Tim Curry does such an amazing performance. He really brings these books to life. Have you read these books? I'd love to know what you thought. And also let me know if you've read any of the Old Kingdom series and if it's worth continuing beyond this trilogy. I think it's going to be, and certainly I'm intrigued to find out what else Nix has written and explore that more.